Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. This is Meldon Law Monday, and standing by in the orange and blue room is the man himself, Franz Beard. He'll be joining us in about 30 seconds. There's a lot to talk about today. A lot of it's healing, getting past what happened last night in basketball. Franz and I have been through this a few times with these Gators. I thought about it just a few minutes ago. You can't imagine a worse feeling than what Gator football fans had at the Fiesta Bowl in 1965 when the great Spurrier team came rocking in there against Nebraska and got it handed to them. And I'm telling you, it was really, really a bleak time for a lot of people. But if you hang in long enough, good things happen, and they did. Of course, we know what happened next year. Spurrier went out and got to Bobby Stoops and got a strength conditioning coach and fired it up and got it going and won the national championship in 1996. So it can happen. We saw a basketball team that we know has surpassed any expectations we've had. Go out and win one last year, and we really thought they were going to win it again. I know I did, Francis. Many people did, but it wasn't to be last night. And Franz Beard, good evening to you. And first of all, great job of covering the Gator basketball team. Really, really hard. Sorry, you can't imagine what it's like at night, folks. At 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, you've had to drive 100 miles or whatever, and then get to your computer and you try to make sense out of something. And it's difficult and challenging, and especially for guys who are, let's say, a little past their prime and hanging in there. But France, great job this year covering the Gators. And it's these times when you really need to kind of get in your huddle with your people, lick your wounds, talk about it, talk it out. In our case, we get to write about it. As you said before, the writing helps you in your therapy of all the things you've been dealing with. And now we have this unfortunate situation, Franz. So tonight, I'll let you take the microphone. And then I'm going to ask a bunch of questions that people would like to have answered, as only you could answer them. So let's go with it right now. And, the number one topic being, why in the world did Todd Golden decide to do what he did in the final 9 seconds of the game? And there's a lot of things in there, but just dive into it where Florida's leading by 2. Mm-hmm. And now you get a reverse call and things begin to change. And now the strategy being, I want to focus on this, is that you're down by 2, and the only thing can beat you the possession is their 3-point play. And, of course, by pressing, you wind up giving it that, and they make it. All right, take it from there, France.
Well, the idea was to deny Bennett Sturtz the ball. Bennett Sturtz is their best ball handler. Now, Boogie Fland had a phenomenal game against Sturtz. Sturtz was averaging 20 points a game against Florida with Boogie on him. Let's see. I'll tell you what his shooting was. He was 0 for 9 on 3-pointers. I mean, this is a guy who was hitting 40%, and he goes 0 for 9. Mm-hmm. Boogie gambled. He wasn't supposed to. The whole idea was to make somebody else other than Bennett Sturtz get the ball and foul them. The idea being this. Okay, we'll take our chances with somebody at the foul line. If he makes them both, we still got 9 seconds and the game is tied.
And got a shot.
So we got a shot to either win it or we will win it in overtime. Mm-hmm. That's the philosophy. And I can't necessarily disagree with the philosophy. The one thing that you disagree with is that Boogie let himself get caught up in a screen situation. They did a nice cross screen there. And Sturtz able to come around it, and Boogie is not in good position. The other guy who's the screener kind of really gets in the way not only of him, but also Xavier Lee. So you end up with your 2 fastest guys running behind. Trouble right there. What happens is when Sturtz then gets to midcourt, he veers toward the key. And in veering toward the key, now you have a 3-on-2 situation. Now, buddy, you played basketball in high school. A lot of people did, and some played basketball in college who were watching and so forth. You remember those 3-on-2 drills, half court, that you did all the time,
Yeah,
incessantly.
of course.
You know, you got a defender, a high defender, a low defender,
Mm.
and you got two guys on the wing, and you got a guy coming here.
Ball in the middle.
The ball in the middle. Okay. As soon as Sturts crosses midcourt, he veers toward the top of the key. Okay. Somebody has got to take the guy at the top of the key. That leaves, you got two guys, one guy in the back. That's Condon, Tommy Hawk, Condon. Tommy has to take the ball handler, which is Sturts. You make a choice. Who you going to leave open? Well, you really don't have a choice. They got two guys and only one guy back there. Perfect bounce pass in the corner, and the guy makes the shot. It shouldn't have happened. Okay, it should not have happened. The strategy behind it was good. Nothing wrong with the strategy. It's not a case of bad coaching strategy or bad coaching. It's a case of bad execution. And here's what I told somebody I talked to today. I said, "Were you in combat?" I said, I know you were in the Marine Corps. Were you in combat? He said, "Well, yeah, I was." I said, "When you got back from combat, did you go into a bar sometime and hear somebody say, 'Well, if I'd been there, I'd have done this'?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, tell me, as somebody who's been there in combat, what happens when the first time you are under live fire?" He said, "I've seen some of the bravest, most well-trained men in the world that first time they're under live fire. They do something silly. They do something stupid." Guys under this kind of pressure, you're trying to make a play, you've done stuff. Sometimes people do something stupid. And I mean, you hope and pray it doesn't happen. Last year we had 3 NBA guards. I was asked by the same guy. He says, "Does this happen with Will Richard, Elijah Martin, and Walter Clayton?" I said, "No, it doesn't." I said, "What happened with one of those is we would have stolen the inbounds pass and probably Elijah Martin would have gone in and dunked the damn basketball."
Yeah, man, they wouldn't have got the boat shot off that. And all what you're saying, I understand. But looking at it from the standpoint of the fan, without knowing the inside information, first of all, you got battle-tested people out there. They're national champions. You had a difficult night already with an Iowa team that wouldn't go away. I don't want to not give them credit. They deserve a lot.
Oh,
And
that well-coached team that executed its play to absolute perfection.
Right. But
give them all the credit in the world for that.
Right. But I want to get to the point I made to you today, and I know everybody knows this by now. Going back to I think was a very bad call in the first half of the double technical by your friends, the Zebras. How could they come out of that with a call of a double technical foul? It's just, I can't believe it. And I thought, what am I seeing? Did I see something different? Now, you can get into the whole thing about what was the intent of the punch, etc. It doesn't matter. If you throw a punch, it's a punch, just because you hit the ball, And so now that changes everything. Because number one, if they go through with the penalty, the guy who made the winning shots out of the game, he's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Should.
And yeah. So consequently, they wound up giving it to him, and he makes the shot. So that was just misfortune or malfeasance or whatever you want to call it in that regard. But I'm not going to blame the loss on the officials. Yeah, there were some really bad calls and non-calls and what have you. I still don't understand sometimes what these guys do. But I'm not going to lay it at the feet of the officials. I think, unfortunately, the guy who has to take the blame is the guy who brought you all the glory. That's Todd Golden last year. It's his, and I heard Charles Barkley just roast him and said he really liked Todd, thinks he's a great coach. But he said it was just bad basketball, the decision to press in that situation, and they wound up doing it. I don't know what I assume they're getting the ball to to the guy who won all the games, number 10. I think he's going to get the ball, but he never said, and they never touched the ball, never got the shot off. That's the frustrating thing. Never got the shot off. Ironically, exactly the opposite of what happened to him last year.
Well, you have two separate.
Did that make any sense to you at all?
Let's talk about three. Let's compartmentalize this. You have three different sections here. The first one is the punch. In the NBA, that's an automatic ejection and 1-game suspension. In college basketball, the rule says that it is the discretion of the official. Now, I talked to officials that I'm friends with today, and they were aghast. And here's what they were aghast at. They thought that the guy who threw the punch should have gotten a technical foul. They did not think that Condon should have gotten a technical foul.
That's how I felt about it. I saw
because I read a picture today of Condon and Tommy Hawk in a column I wrote about them. And you could see that they're grabbing for the ball, and Condon's got his hands on it. And you got two strong guys who are fighting for the ball like this, and Condon is stronger. He's pulling the ball away, and the guy goes over. And the guy Condon falls on the ground. That guy falls on the ground. He jumps Condon. Right there, you got a technical foul. Should not have been a foul on Condon. It really shouldn't have been, because you got two guys fighting for a jump ball. The fact that they all call it a double tech nullifies it. It's Iowa's ball because of the jump ball. Should have been Florida's ball. Should have been 2 shots in the ball for Florida. Should have been. I've got friends who are officials who are aghast at that call. They think it was just ridiculous. That and what they're most pissed off about in watching it, and of course, it's what you expect with Joe Lindsey. It's what you expect with Bert Smith. These guys should not be allowed to call a 6th grade CYO game of Catholic girls playing basketball against a homeless shelter.
I know these are guys on your hit list, unless you ran a grave on them now, because I know you don't like.
That's all I'm going to say is they're incompetent officials. So okay. we got what you kind of figured. I told Tom Green before the game. I said Joe Lindsey. I said
the former coach.
Yeah, I said Tom he was Green. Doing the radio for Westwood. I said, this game's going to start at 7:10. We'll be lucky to be out of here by 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh, don't tell me that." I said, "Yeah." And sure enough, the game was like 9:48 when it ended. But that's typical of Joe Lindsey called games. Here's the point, though. It shouldn't have mattered. The officials were bad the entire game. Joe Lindsey's nickname among other officials is Mr. Makeup because he's constantly doing makeup calls. Some people say he's the king of anticipation because he's lost steps, and so he anticipates calls that aren't always there. That's the worst thing. That happens a lot as officials get older. It's bad. But no matter who would have won that game, buddy, somebody would have been pissed off, whether it would have been Ben McCullum or Todd Golden, because the officiating was bad, and it was bad on both sides. It really was. It's a game that deserved 3 good officials, and we didn't get 3 good officials, and that's all I can say about it. Now, it should not have mattered, though. Florida had chances to win the game despite the calls that were made and the blown calls that were made and the no calls that were not made. Florida had adequate chances to win the ball game, didn't do it. Give Iowa credit for some of it because Iowa played, I think, above its head. Iowa's 3-7 in its last 10 games coming in there. And they played out of their minds against the Gators. Some of it had to do with the fact that they got physical on the Gators, and I don't think the Gators responded well.
All right, Franz, you're going to have to hold on 1 second here. We apparently have some kind of communications problem. I'm going to try to work it out. So if you just sit right tight right there for a minute while I do this, I'm going to check in with my crowd and see. You seem to be coming through loud and clear, but some people are saying they're not getting the signal. So let's see what this is about. Go ahead and talk a little bit about it and talk about the. We'll hope this goes through. I don't know until I talk to folks here whether they're going to get it or not. So,
well, like I said, it's unfortunate that it was a poorly called game, and it really was. You would have liked to have seen well called. You get in the NCAA tournament, and these guys, these kids deserve the best officials that are out there. I think so often the officials are chosen based on lifetime achievement awards. Shouldn't happen. You should endeavor to have the 3 best guys you can find out there. And we didn't have that, but it goes both ways. Now, that's one thing. Florida had opportunities, didn't do it. Let's talk about the defensive play. Is that how I would have, I think there are different ways to do it. Personally, I would have put somebody on the ball. I'd have put 2 people at midcourt. I'd run something like a 1-2-2 or a diamond in one. Here, and then a guy who's your safety. That's what I would have done, but that's based on what I've seen other coaches do in similar situations over the years. Todd chose what they felt was effective, and it's hard to disagree with the strategy that, okay, we'll foul a guy immediately, and that will prevent them from taking a 3. And they had been making some 3s. They had a couple guys in there that made some. So, you got a guy, though, that blows his assignment, and guess what happens? Because he blows his assignment, gets up the sideline, and you end up with a 3-on-2, and they make it. So let's talk about the third thing, which is Xavier Lee. Xavier Lee gets the ball, goes up court, past everybody. At the top of the key, kind of turns the corner and goes in there. I thought he had a clear path. I thought that he was either going to get the ball up or get fouled. And as good as he's been getting the ball off the glass and in the goal, and he has been really good at that. He had a shot earlier in the game, if you remember, when he crosses from the right wing across their offense, goes up with the left hand, banks it in. Going this way, and left-handed and across the body of it.
All right, now, friends, let me get to a couple of things coming up here in a minute. I'm going to bring our expert on women's basketball in here in a minute to talk about the new coach at Florida, which everybody's excited about. But for you, and I got you front and center tonight, and people are reading it loud and clear. Thank you for that. Someone said earlier, one of my guys, I can't get you. You never know what that's going to happen. We're good. We're doing fine. All right, so some questions I want you to answer, kind of probably rapid fire a little bit before we get to the Tammi Reiss story. Decisions are looming now, and there's one report out that Boogie Fan is now put into the portal. Have you heard that?
I have not heard it, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It might be the best thing because it's unfortunate that he had to end his career like Florida, like he did. But that's the word on the street. Now, I don't know that. I can't confirm it, but we'll find out allegedly. Decisions are still looming for Tommy Howe, who we think is gone. Alex Condon, who may come back, and Ruben Chimilu after Florida's loss to Iowa. Condon said he will consult with the boys about what's next. My heart would just bled for Chimilu and for Tommy Howe, just crying their eyes out. I've seen athletes cry before. It's not new. But knowing what happened to this young man, Chimilu, who is such a great player, a great heart, and a great person, these are the things that we don't talk about much, But I know you were very close to those guys, and you feel that, and you think, oh man, you just hate it. You hate it. I think the good news is their talent will take them elsewhere. You think that Chimulu and Condon will be coming back next year?
I think Chinyelu is coming back. I think Chinyelu needs to come back because he doesn't have a jump shot. You got to have Alex Condon kind of reinvented himself after the Auburn game. He started making that little 8-foot floater in the lane and getting more and taking the ball more to the rim, and basically forgot about shooting threes. He took a few more afterward, but it was very rare when he took a three after the Auburn game, and he reinvented himself. And in doing so, he got himself back into first round talk about, and he really is. He's a first round guy. Yeah. Somebody would be crazy not to get him because you're talking about a guy who's mobile, a guy who can score, who can handle the ball, a guy who can pass the ball, and a guy who can play really good defense. He's a goner. Tammi and Alex are gone.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It would take, I believe, I wrote it today, it would take something of, I would say, feeding the 5,000 proportions to bring them back.
Okay.
It's
okay,
possible.
And then I'm sorry, real quick, I want to get this in because we got Lauren standing by. The news today that Florida had hired an outstanding women's coach that a lot of people have know a lot, and that Tammi looks like she was. I didn't know she was Don Staley's backcourt partner in Virginia. And she comes highly recommended. That was quite a hire, and I'll bring Lauren in, and we'll also talk about our sponsor while Lauren's coming in. Lauren, good evening. Stand by for 1 second. Say hi to Franz. And I want to get this in real fast. Don't forget Melvin Law. That's so important. They do a great job for us. The University of Florida, the only official law firm of the University of Florida. We lost Lauren for some reason. They're good people. They're good lawyers, and been great sponsors of ours. For some reason, Lauren's having problems getting in. Lauren, hold on. So Meldon Law, this is very important people to us. They're friends. They're great. They're great people. They're good lawyers. They're the only official law firm for the University of Florida. A personal injury, and just can't say nothing good about Jeffrey. The one thing he did was blew everybody away when he gave away 10,000 replica rings. That was just an amazing promotion. Wanted to share the joy. Melvin Law, they won't back down. And Lauren, good evening to you. Francis has done a very articulate job of going over last night. We're going to replay this for years to come. It won't be the last time. But before we do that, the news about Florida's new women's basketball coach.
Yeah, the hiring of Tammi Reiss. I wish I'd have got you to have me on here before I'd have called it. I was talking to somebody at the softball game Saturday, and I said I like Tammi Reiss from Rhode Island, former roommate of Don Staley, backcourt mate. I mean, obviously, I know Franz knows a lot about Debbie Ryan and her program when they had Don and Tammi both, really sharp, backcourt, really good player. And it was time. She had spent some time as a coach in the WNBA, assistant at Syracuse, and at Rhode Island since 2019, and has really done a great job in the A-10 building that program up. 2 regular season conference titles, won the tournament this year to make their first NCAA bid since 1996. And I think, Reiss brings a lot of pedigree, some overseas experience as well. So, obviously you guys know how I feel about Kelly Ray Finley, but, I told somebody, if not Kelly, then I thought that Tammi Reiss, the head coaches that were available out there, was ready to take the next step and kind of follow the same path that Don did at the time, Temple was in the A-10, I believe, same kind of mid-major path to South Carolina. And here's Tammi Reiss, here at Florida. So be interesting. I'm sure we'll get to spend some time with her maybe in the next couple of days, but I like the hire.
All right, good. And before I let you go, Lauren, Franz, this says to me that Strickland's spending some money on women's basketball.
Well, he's got to. If you want to be something other than a bottom third, or a bottom feeder in the SEC, you got to spend the money. LSU has an NIL budget of something like $3 to $5 million, which is more than a lot of men's programs do. I don't doubt that Dawn Staley works with more than that up at South Carolina. You know that how they are in Tennessee, how they love the Lady Vols. They're going to spend. Texas, I mean, only God has more money than the Longhorns. And so if you want to take up the least productive program in the University of Florida program, over the years, the very least productive program. But you look at what they've done. Have they really spent the money to upgrade, whether it's coaches, whether it's the roster, you name it? Have they done it? And the answer is no, they haven't. Florida's lack of success can be laid squarely on the shoulders of the UAA for going cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one conference that if you plan on being at the top of the heap, you can't go cheap.
All right,
most
Lauren,
visible women's
your final comment.
Most visible women's sport in college athletics, the most popular, and Florida has been woefully behind. So I agree with you, buddy. This is supposed to kind of be a shot over the bow to say that they're making an investment, but I'm with Franz. I mean, it is. They have, Scott Strickland's been under fire a little bit for his lack of interest in the promotion of women's sports, here at Florida. So we will see where this leads itself. But I like the hire, and it's somebody that can maybe work other avenues to bring some money in, and we'll see where it goes. But all in all, I really like the hire.
All right, we got time for one comment from each of you of 20 seconds on the current situation. And it's kind of hard to get over Florida losing, but there will be a Final Four, and Florida's not going to be in it. Who you like now, Lauren, and who you watching in France? Who you got? Go ahead, Lauren.
I got Arizona, Michigan.
Who you got to win it?
Oh, to win it, Arizona.
Arizona. France?
I think Arizona wins it, and I think that you're going to have an Illinois will be in there. I think Arizona will be there. Duke's vulnerable to St. John's, and that's the one I'm going to watch. Duke is very, very vulnerable. Michigan, I think Michigan's going to be there, and I think Arizona's going to be there. But trust me, on the two to really watch are going to be the East with Duke with the potential of going against St. John's, and then you got the South region, because I think Illinois is a terrible matchup for Houston. I thought that Illinois would be a great matchup for the Gators, and Houston would be a terrible one. But I thought that Illinois would also be Houston's worst nightmare, and I think that's what they're getting.
Hey, guys. Didn't turn out like we thought, and it was unfortunate. But by the way, I wrote a column today on football, and I was surprised at the strong reaction of people. I think people now want to turn the page. It's been a great ride, but I'm excited about it. If you look at here's what's interesting. I wrote this about the fact that there's no team in the SEC that has as high a totals for FanDuel in terms of their win-loss. Florida's right in that bunch. They got a bunch of there's about 6 and 5 teams in there on the way too early predictions in the SEC, and Florida's right in there. They can break out of that pack. So I think, and all the positive stuff I'm hearing outside the program from other people, like guys in Atlanta, guys in Birmingham, whatever, that, as I said, John Summerall's becoming the poster boy of promise. I don't want to get too far here, but it seems like there's a little touch of football in here. They're going to ramp it up tomorrow, And here we go until the 11th of the spring game. Quick football comment by each. I'll let you go.
No, I mean, I think I'll shoot real quick and I'll let you guys go, or you can let me go. Yeah, I mean, everything's been positive. I was able to, the only problem I have is they practice in the morning and I can't get to practice because of something else I got to do, if you know what I mean. But that's the only thing I hate.
Huh?
Practice.
You let your day job get in the way of your
I
fun
let
stuff?
my day job get in. Yeah. So, that's the only unfortunate thing. But everything I saw, the energy is up. Everything looks, they got them moving and grooving. But yeah, I mean, I think if you talk to people that have known John Summerall, everything right now is held true. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and like I say, when they run out against Campbell, we'll get to see what it looks like.
Campbell, that sounds funny. Well,
Camels.
You saw
the fighting mushroom soup.
Yeah.
You, Franz, got to see a lot of Summerall in basketball recently.
Yeah, well, he's a big Gator fan, and he shows up.
He does.
If the Gators are on campus and he's got time, he's there, and you'll see him with his wife and his kids. Very, very engaged with the fans.
Yeah.
Billy would come to baseball games with his son, and he'd sit over there in the box, and he'd be unapproachable. He'd leave. He'd come through the private entrance. He'd leave through the private exit. Never saw him. This guy just seems to thrive on the contact that he has with people. Yeah. And I like that. I like that about him. I hope that doesn't change. I hope that's not just his initial facade, saying, well, I got to win the folks over. I hope that's his natural personality. And we'll find out. Time will tell that. I know Charlie, we had a guy here named Charlie Pell, and literally the single most approachable coach I think we've ever had here. Had a good word for everybody. Charlie was fantastic with that. And my goodness, he did 140 booster events in his first year, to the point that Ward Pell will not touch barbecue to this day, and has an aversion for green beans. She says, you have to go get barbecue, baked beans, or green beans. And she says, I can still handle the baked beans, but I can't handle green beans anymore. And she refuses to eat barbecue to this day, because they did 140.
A lot of them things. A lot of them. They did a bunch.
So I hope Coach Summerall doesn't change. And we see
He's not going to change. He's not going to change.
Well, we see that, though.
Let me have Lauren. Let me say good night to Lauren first. Lauren, thank you, buddy. See you.
Yes.
Go ahead, Franz.
We see so often somebody who's he's new on the job, and the first thing he tries to do, he's trying to win everybody over. I think it's genuine for him. I don't think it's a facade, but the only way we're going to find out is for time. Time will take care of that. And I think that everything I've seen so far is he's the right guy for the job. And he's for lack of a better term, he's a healer, because we've got wounds and not intentionally inflicted wounds by Billy Napier, but people felt that as much as he talked about culture and buy-in and doing all these things, and he may have indeed been the greatest coach in the world from Sunday to Friday. But I wrote about this after one ball game, and you remember what this lady said when I got to my car, and she said, you know what? He's great on Sunday through Friday. She said, but we're paying him $7.5 million to win games on Saturday.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money to be spent. And who knows? I think we got the real deal, but the only way to find out, time is the thing that will tell that. I mean, here's Kevin Brockway, and Kevin knows that, because I think Miami fans were a little skeptical that first year with Mario, but now Mario's one of the guys now, and he's gotten you to a championship game, and he's really changed the culture there, back to what it used to be at Miami. But after all the duds Miami hired waiting for him, it's certainly, I'm sure, a pleasant thing for Miami fans. And I think we got that same thing that we're going to have to wait and see with John, that he's going to fill the bill.
Evening, Kevin.
I'm ducking down because I didn't realize the shirt I was wearing. I'm in Orlando, but
you're in Orlando.
So the green could be anything. But obviously, I think with Franz, I think with anything, too, it's like, and now we see a new women's basketball coach, obviously Tammi Reiss. I mean, she will get the buy-in and she will get the money and the support if she wins, right? It's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, but I think if you went, we saw that with Todd Golden. Obviously, last night didn't turn out to be the result that people wanted, but still an SEC regular season championship. Bitter pill to swallow because you expected more. But it kind of reminded me of, being a St. John's fan back in the day, buddy. You might remember this in '86, right, when they won the Big East tournament. They won the Big East regular season. They came in on a real high, and they lost to Auburn and Chuck Person in a round of 32 as a 1 seed. Sometimes these things happen, and sometimes, especially when you get overconfident facing a 16 seed and you have that kind of margin of victory, I think a little bit of that creeps in. And I think certainly Iowa's physicality early in that game might have caught Florida a little bit by surprise that they matched their physicality. I think sometimes you think just because you're the bigger team, you're naturally going to be the more physical team. And Iowa certainly stood up to Florida toe-to-toe in that regard.
Yeah, the stat I keep hearing today, you guys have heard it, like 8 of the 9 last Final Fours, the defending national champion didn't make it out of the first round, right? Didn't make it in Florida. And the only other one was UConn.
Well, it had to be UConn, right? Because
UConn, and they won the
So but I do think, buddy, this was a team that was constructed to go deeper. I had reservations more about the second weekend. I had picked them to lose to Vandy in the rematch, and lo and behold, Vandy couldn't get by Nebraska. So I guess we'll never really know. But it was a winnable game at the end. But the thing that reared its ugly head, and Florida had a lot of, obviously, when you look back at that 12-game winning streak and the margin of victory, right? They had so many runaway games, very much like Duke last year in the Final Four. They did expose themselves to enough close games and establish that kind of go-to guy at the end of the game, and 2-5 in games decided by 5 points or less on the season. They only played 7, but they couldn't quite figure out who that guy was that was going to make the big shot, that was going to make the big play, and that was going to make the big stop. And I don't know if you've talked earlier in the podcast also about, maybe some of the strategy. And
well, we talked about not pressing, and that was we went into that deal, and how we only got a couple of minutes, but one thing I want to say is that the one thing you cannot do, is allow a 3-point shot. That's the one thing. You can look at it any way you want to, say go into the foul with 20 seconds. Let them make 2 foul shots. You get the ball back with a chance to win the game.
Well, that's what they want to do, buddy. But what happened was, a McCollum designed a heck of an inbounds play. I'm looking at it over at Sturts. He kind of sprung free like a receiver. He turned around, like he ran almost that circle route, because I think the original idea was to foul right away, or they actually didn't really want to foul Sturts. They wanted to foul the next guy. But still, in that situation, it was just, one of those perfect storm things where, I think McCollum just, ran a very good inbounds play, turned into a 3-on-2 situation, and Florida. The shot was right in front of me, and it was clean. And you can get on Fulgaris too, and the scrum was right in front of me too. And I'm here to tell you, and buddy, I'm far from a homer, but that was a punch. He threw a punch. He was frustrated. Exactly. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Exactly. And the intent. You just can't throw a punch because it doesn't land and be all. It's a punch. It's a punch, and he should have been not have been in the game to make the winning shot. But you can't go there because it'll be one we'll remember forever in basketball. It was just brutal way to lose the game, and a lot of people are hammering Todd. I know that Charles Barkley was a big fan of Todd Golden's. Just reamed him a new one this morning about
I wrote
terrible
about
decision he made, and I don't know what exactly he was thinking. Here's the thing: you can't have here. We talked about this all preseason, all about the guard play, and we said that's going to be the thing that's going to do them in. And then we talked ourselves out of it because they played so well.
Yeah.
But the very thing we didn't want to see happened with the guards.
Yeah, and Xavier Lee, Xavier Lee, 4.5 seconds left, miscalculating.
And never gets a shot off.
The amount of time that he kind of had for that play to develop, that was another,
Boogie
going on the rim.
Boogie blowing the defensive assignment. That was that was a tough one. So it's a lot of heartache. One we'll be talking about for a long, long time. All right, give me 35, 40 seconds of football. Kevin, you, and then Franz. It's football season, guys. We're a football school here. Come on now.
Well, we're going to get the quarterbacks tomorrow, apparently. So, that's going to be interesting. They're coming off spring break, certainly. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to develop, how the competition continues to go. You hear different things on different days. Mm-hmm. I like the way Trammell throws the football. But, Aaron Philo, obviously he is, familiarity with Buster Faulkner. That can't be discounted as well. So it's going to be, I think, an interesting battle. That's probably going to go into the fall. What do you think, Franz?
I think I trust what John has said, that they're not going to make a decision after this spring. They're going to let things play out. For one thing, Aaron Philo does have an advantage because he knows the offense. I think, to be fair to the other two scholarship quarterbacks, you've got to give them a chance to at least catch up in their knowledge of the offense. They're not going to have the on-field execution that Philo has, but you at least have to give them an opportunity, I think, to have the knowledge that Philo may have, or at least lessen the gap there.
All right, I want to talk real fast. There's so many things going on around campus we can't keep up. First of all, gymnastics puts up an amazing score. Wins by the slimmerest margins possible, the SEC. Amazing. And then the softball team, my goodness gracious. They took 2 games out of 3 from the number 1 team in the country, Tennessee. And that was a fun game to watch. And the softball team can't get into baseball much because things aren't going their way. Man, they get no hit.
They can't catch the ball.
Really? Is that it? Yeah. That's
pitching too was a little bit of a problem too over the weekend, I think.
Really? I mean, and the inning, you got no hit. You go with no hit. That's not good. Final comments from you just for a second. Before I bring in a guy who's done a great job. Eddie is going to join us and he covers softball for us. We'll tell you about that. But softball, Tim Walton, amazing.
Tim Walton reloads every year, and his top 3 girls in the lineup, Taylor Shoemaker, Jocelyn Erickson, and then Kinley Cahalan. Between the 3 of them, I think he got 40 home runs, and that's a formidable lineup. Taylor Shoemaker opened game 3 with a home run. I don't know, was it the first pitch, Eddie? But
not the first pitch.
But
a 2-1 count, but a hitter's count.
She may be the most natural hitter that we've had, and she hits with such power, but yet at the same time she'll take the ball to the other field. She is not just swing. It's either out of the park or striking out. She's hard to strike out.
Before we get to softball, let's give Jenny Rowland a little bit of credit too, because winning the SEC now with Oklahoma in it is a lot different than before. True. Oklahoma was in it. I mean, that's a national powerhouse, and to beat Oklahoma and to win an SEC title along with LSU and some of the other traditional strong programs in the conference is really something. So that's kudos to the girls for that as well. That's a well-earned championship, and maybe it'll carry them confidence-wise, going into Fort Worth and nationals later this month.
Yeah, this is going to be fun to watch the softball team. Eddie does a great job of recovering it for us, and tells us this shoemate kid, man, hey, she got a good looking swing or what, man? Beautiful swing.
She may have the sweetest swing of any lefty we've seen in a long time. I know Tim has said publicly that she's as good a hitter as any he's had, and that includes Amanda Lorenz, and that includes some really good bats over the years who have been good left-handed swings. But she swings so effortlessly that she makes it look really easy, even against the best pitcher that they face so far. And maybe one of the best that they'll face all year long. Even if they get back to Oklahoma City, they won't face many arms better than Carlin Pickens. I forget how to say her name. But anyway, she came in with a .063 ERA and left double that. Had only given up 2 home runs, doubled that plus. And so the Gators found a way to be able to win 2 out of 3. And it was an electric crowd. That's why my voice is like this. I'm not like you guys who sit up in the ivory towers and behind the screens and eat the good food up there.
He just buys his own food, sits on his stand, sweats. He's
I'm row one on my own dime, right? I sit right behind the umpires and and we have a good time down in section 104. So if you're ever at a game, want to come find me, that's where you'll find me. It was a great weekend.
Tennessee going to drop after this, obviously. Their All-American pitcher got touched up a little bit too. Rothrock was amazing. I mean, I don't know how long she can hold out. They got to get their other pitcher back.
Yeah, that's still waiting on Ava Brown to come back from the injury, and no updates have been posted. She was moving around a little better than she has been, but that's just watching that happen. That has no medical advice or no timetable for her return.
Is it a high ankle sprain that she's got?
It is not the dreaded high ankle sprain. It's something in the knee area.
Okay.
Probably a hyperextension of one of the ligaments. They have not said, but when you stretch to catch a ball, and that's what happens. But Liv Miller has pitched really well. I mean, a real surprise, I think, for most softball fans, most Gators. Knew she was okay, an okay pitcher, but she's become really a solid one you can run out there, especially a left-hander when you need an out against a left-handed bat. Caitlin Knoxley has pitched better the last couple of outings than she did a few outings back. And so you can't say they haven't missed her, but they have picked up enough from the others to at least keep them in the games, and their bats are always going to keep them in every game.
Yeah. What's the schedule look like for Florida, Eddie, coming up now next couple of weeks?
Well, I don't typically look far ahead between the next weekend and the next game. So the next game is Stetson on Wednesday night, which will be coming. And then let me see that schedule real quick, pull it up. And I know that they have fortunate this year in our schedule that we missed some of the better teams in the way the SEC sets it up. And people have been blasting the Gators about they don't play, the Oklahomas. We don't play. I think we don't play Alabama this year, which is unusual. You normally always play them, but the SEC sets those schedules. We don't do it, and you play whoever's put before you, and that's just the way you got to go at it. So, we played enough good teams. Missouri and Kentucky, not the top two. Tennessee, and then we go to Arkansas next weekend, which will be a big series. Arkansas is a pretty good team as well. Then Mississippi State, which has been surprising in how good they have played, beating Tennessee, took a game from Georgia, which probably most people didn't think they would do. Then we get South Carolina, which is not that hard. Auburn is kind of a mid-level team, and then we go to Georgia, which will be a great weekend to try to win that one, and then that's it, and we're done. So we don't play Alabama, we don't play Texas, we don't play Oklahoma, which is probably to our advantage, obviously, because those are 3 of the top 5 teams in the country right now.
Yeah, guys, let me ask you a general question here. is to sit here and think about Iowa. Why all of a sudden is Iowa a basketball powerhouse? State of Iowa is that women's sports. Speaking of women's sports in Iowa, Caitlin, women's sports seems to be, I don't know if the rebirth is the right word or not, but you see what Florida's doing now in women's basketball. They put something in the program. It looks like TV has ramped up their commitment to women's sports. I don't know that if they have to go head to head with the men, they're ever going to win. But what's the future, and how much is this emphasis by TV and by schools on women's sports? How much is that changing the dynamic, Kevin?
I think it's a good thing, and it's interesting because when you look at like media distribution, right, and it's I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 75 million. We just got the revenue reports this week, and you could say that it's mainly football and it's mainly basketball, and that's what drives the engine. But you still need programming on the SEC network, right? You still need time to fill.
Right.
I mean, there are only so many, we would call it the Book of Mannings you could put on there. So any amount of women's sports inventory that you could put on there, I think it's popular. And I think that leads to the growth of the sport, particularly for women's basketball. And I'm watching, like the SEC network highlight shows, and they're spending as much time breaking down the women's NCAA basketball tournament as they are the men. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a positive thing. It's a positive step. And the interest is growing. And, I think the same thing with softball and gymnastics and some of the other sports too. It's good to get that exposure. And I think the quality of the product of women's basketball too has, dramatically, improved in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah. Does that mean, the revenue is going to be the key. That's what they got to get up there. And the TV is where the revenue is. If they can get the numbers, and that will be.
But again, the SEC network as an entity needs programming. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't. I'm reminded of the story that people just told a couple of days ago. Franz, you remember this? Remember when the SEC decided they wanted to emphasize basketball? What year was that? 2005, whatever it was. They decided they were going to have good basketball. They went out spending money, and look what that's done for them in basketball. And I think they're hoping this to maybe women's basketball might be a sleeping giant for them. What do you think, Franz?
Well, I think that the SEC is front and center ahead of the whole curve when it comes to women's sports all along. We're dominant in softball, dominant in basketball because you got South Carolina, you got LSU and Texas there. You're dominant in gymnastics, dominant in swimming. The league is set up to have success with the women, so you can't blame them for spending a little bit more. And the coverage is good. I like the fact that tonight you had Oklahoma and Ole Miss on SEC Network playing the Monday night softball game. I thought that was fantastic because we're not going to see Oklahoma either, the Gators there or them coming here this year. So it was a chance to see them. And my gosh, they got some big boppers on their team. I think they've got 5 hitters with 14 home runs or more on their roster. There's something else.
Yeah, and Eddie, you got the sport where they're most popular. I think women's softball, and it's not called that; it's just called softball. It's just an amazing product, and the competition level when you get Oklahoma mixed in there, and now Florida started playing at a high level. It's going to be some really humdingers in softball here, and I'm looking forward because the games are so much fun to watch. I really enjoy watching the games and watching the plays, and I go back to a time when you couldn't see a woman throw a baseball or softball without looking like she was Tony Perkins and first strikes out. You know what I mean? And now it's a whole different look. They feel the ball, one's nice rhythm. They throw the ball, they turn the double play, they chase down the long flies, and it's a different brand of softball. And very popular. How much more popular can it become there, Eddie?
Well, this weekend they drew over 7,000 fans in the 3 games. So 7,000 people here on the weekend. That's the back end of spring break for Alaska County and UF and the Final Four and all of that going on says a lot about how popular this sport is. And when you see the number of young girls that come to watch the games, it is amazing to watch them, how it's grown over the years. I've been around this sport now since before Tim came in 2003. My neighbor was Karen Johns, and she got me involved with Gator Women's softball, and I've been involved ever since. And it's an amazing, incredible journey that the sport has gone on, and that this team and the UF program has gone on. And Coach Walton is an incredible coach. He's an incredible man, and he reloads and he does well. He's got a great staff with him. And, you know, we're doing pretty well until you look at Oklahoma, and they've got 123. I don't know if they hit another one after the one tonight, Franz, to right field. That was an absolute laser. That's probably still traveling out toward Manning Boulevard. But I don't know. But if they've done that, they've hit more home runs already than any SEC school in history in 32 games.
Why? How? What happened? What's the deal here? Why is that happening?
They've got some hitters that got some pop to those bats for sure.
I saw of them earlier on. Talk about a team that doesn't get cheated on its swings. They don't get cheated. And you know, Oklahoma softball, Oklahoma gymnastics, and Florida's right there with Oklahoma in softball. And I got to tell you what, guys, I watched the gymnastics, and you know how I am about basketball. I watched the gymnastics Saturday night, and to go 9-9, 9-9-2-5, 9-9-7-5, 9-9-7-5, 10, and 9-9-2-5 is what it took to beat Oklahoma by 0.025. 49-8 on the bars, an absolute talk about a clutch performance. And it's amazing because the announcers are saying, well, Selena could really use a 10 right now. What she do? Probably just boom. Absolutely. And she got cheated. I got to tell you what, she got cheated on her balance beam because she that was a 10. I'm sorry. They just didn't give it to her on there.
That's always, we love gymnastics at our house as well, but that's always a thing that just drives us mad, is because it is so subjective in the scoring. You never know how well you're doing. And imagine a football player who's making a catch on the sideline, and he's either penalized 2.5 yards or given 2.5 yards more by the way that he holds his body when he comes down with the football. That's what gymnastics is like. You just never know what they see, and you look at it and go, I don't see the difference. And to me, it's an easy sport to sort of question whether or not it's rigged in one favor or the other. But, you know, the Gators came through when they needed to with clutch performance. If you don't fall, then you make the judges have to make a decision.
All right, guys, great job tonight. Appreciate it. Franz, you did a yeoman's job. They're bearing the burden the whole hour, carrying it. Thank you for those people who were having difficulty hearing us. I'm sorry. The show was great, and it's there, and will continue to be there. So thank you, Eddie, and we'll look forward to your piece. Also, Kevin, I hope you got anything you want to talk about with what you're writing or what's happening.
Well, obviously, you know, we're going to, meet Tammi Reiss tomorrow, right? So,
right.
You know, perhaps column on her and women's basketball and support, and also, obviously, spring football coverage for the rest of the week.
All right, great. Thanks, Kevin, Gainesville Sun. Eddie, thank you. I'll read you and Gatorbait. Franz, good job. Talk to you later. We'll wrap it up, folks, with this word, with our thanks to our guest, our sponsor tonight, Meldon Law. And we also want to remind you about our friends who also do a good job helping us out. And we want to do it right. So we'll wait till the next time to the complete commercial, but we'll just say good night and thank you for listening and thank you for watching, and we'll catch up to you soon right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Things are getting interesting and football is starting. So remember that. Football is starting. We got football coming up. Yeah. So we're going to play our out music and we'll say good night.